direction, and there is a piece on top of that conveyor. If we were now to either move into that piece coordinate system or we want to move out of that coordinate system, we cannot change the location of this piece. So the reason you get two is because if you want to go from one moving piece coordinate system to another conveyor, where you actually also want to do tracking, there is no point in where you actually are not tracking to a piece.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you would first need to go to the MCS, and then if you're at standstill, you need to change the piece coordinate system to that conveyor, and then you can move to the other conveyor.
So piece one is pick up, piece two is build.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's the only reason why you have two pieces. Because you can never go to three piece coordinate systems at the same time. So you never need three, but you do need two. Yeah.
So if you had more than one piece coming down the line, would you go into a buffer or?
Well, yes. So I've done an application where a camera is. Okay. So this is the name of your project, or this is the name of the program that you are calling, but there is no program that is named BN. Yes, so this has to be there, and this has to be deleted. Okay, did you? Yeah, so you get the track conveyor belt, move absolute, power, so that's working. And then we got function blocks, track conveyor belt, move absolute, and you also have to move linear absolute. Let me see if that one is. Yeah, so that is this one, I think. Move absolute 0. Let me check if that is correctly linked. Yeah.
No. So I think the only issue was that one.
Yeah.
It was running.
Yeah. I think so too.
The rotary thing, then you need to use move rotary, but then you need an access group. So you need to.
No. The rotary table is just a rotary axis. So you can use a modulo.
Yeah, but I did that. But then how do you say? Because you can't use move absolute thing, can you?
Yeah, you can use a move velocity. So it just starts rotating with a velocity.
Okay, because it doesn't want to engage on the tracking.
And like another thing you need to provide is that the rotary, you need to specify the position on the rotary, and you need to make sure that there's a radius. Otherwise, it's going to be rotating on this in the initial object position. So the origin of the rotary table is 0, 0, 0. So if you specify it in one direction, it's going to rotate in that direction.
So I just
And I think if you can get it working correctly, then you see the drive number 4 actually rotating also, because it's trying to get the gripper to stay in parallel. So that would be nice if you can get it working. Yeah.
it moves.
So you did. So if we want to use the track conveyor, we need to specify the coordinate system to piece number 1. So we can execute this. Let's see.
So this is fine like this.
See, there was an error on the function block.
But it can be after the
SMC axis.
That's fine.
Not focal ratio.
The rest are like this. Yeah.
Ah, look. So you added your drive as drive 5, but you added your drive here as conveyor. So this is the name that needs to be the same. So we need to delete this, and then we can change this to conveyor.
Because mine was moving and then it would stop somewhere.
Yeah? Yeah, sure.
Let's not wrap my head around.
Yeah?
That's the point. I understand the concept of, I've seen videos of conveyor move, never have done something like this, none of us have maybe. Now the caps, I remember these bottle caps, conveyor is moving continuously at let's say 20 millimeters per second. This is your axis. So it comes back to this position, waiting for the next one. It's moved here, it's done the upstream, and it comes back here. And the next step comes to synchronization. Now, how does that relate to the track conveyor and the move linear?
So the move linear absolute, you can set it to move to the same position, so the same 0, 0, 0, if it's on the piece.
So,
But you need to make sure that the initial object position contains the offset between the two caps. Because the conveyor is constantly moving in a positive direction, so if you were to home this conveyor at this point, so this cap is actually at the conveyor origin, so it is at 0. Then if it starts moving, the next cap will be at 500. So your initial object position for the second cap will be minus 500.
No, that's for the X.
so we're going to put initial objects X, Y, Z, A, B, C.
So you are going to put the X at 500 if the next cap is at 500. And then if you want to do the third cap, it's going to be 1000. And if you want to do a fourth cap, it's going to be 1500. So your initial object position is going to increase with every piece that you want to grab. Yeah.
That's absolute.
Yeah, it is absolute. But then it's placing the
So the X is only there, the Y, there's no Y, there's no Z.
yeah.
What
So
is this?
there is a Y. So if this is your conveyor, and the caps are like this, then you only get an X. But if your caps are like this, then it's also the Y, and then the X, and then the Y, and then the X.
You gotta stipulate X.
Yeah.
Caps only.
And if it's on the Z, then you can also put it on the Z. If
X, Y,
one
Z.
cap is higher than the other cap. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Getting the understanding.
That is if 50 between each cap.
So when you put that in, let's say X, right, straightforward. The other things are all controlled. Tightly, whatever, come back to
Yeah.
that points. MCS. This is the same MCS here. It's gonna go
So
back.
that one is always switching piece, moving, and then back to MCS. Then another piece, moving, back to MCS. Yeah.
Oh, okay, so it's MCS. When it detects there, it executes and this changes to PCS1.
Yeah.
PCS1 is a 500.
No, it's working.
Yeah.
Now, instead of just do a 180, I want a
Yeah.
The conveyor here.
Yeah, so there's an error on a few of the drives, so we first need to reset. Now reset the group, so you got the group reset function block. Yeah. So you can enable. No, it is not home. It's not finished yet. We need to wait a long time. Yeah. So you don't have a button that shows that it's finished. So you really need to wait for this. So look, this one is still.
Not yet.
Yeah, but this one is an error. So.
What I don't understand, sometimes there might be an error. The program works. After that is an error. So
Yeah. So you click home and you click it again, and then it's an error because you interrupted the homing. So that produces an error. So the axis is home, yeah, or it's power. Now we execute the home. Now we wait for the last function block. Yeah, no, it's not true. Now it's done, yeah. So home, and what do we want to do now? Yeah, so if we want to do a tracking, you need to do tracking to a piece coordinate system. That cannot be ACS or MCS or WCS, it must be piece. So we do execute, that's done. And now we can use the move linear absolute function block, this one, and actually move to the same piece coordinate system. So we need to provide a velocity, acceleration, deceleration and jerk, something like this. So we move, it says done, so it moved to that coordinate system, and now we can move the coordinate system. So now with this one we are actually going to move the conveyor.
Okay, I see.
So if we move this now to 30, execute, we're moving the conveyor, but because the axis group was locked to the conveyor, it's going to move together with the conveyor. Yeah. Yeah. And if you now move the conveyor back to 5, now it's also moving the whole axis group back to 5.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow. So this is like the most difficult way to draw a circle.
If you don't want to smooth your square.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be fun. Just like make a straight line and then put a rotary table, hook it up to the rotary table, and then.
Over engineering galore.
Yeah. Or even do like the linear movements all with a track conveyor belt.
Is there something like gear out type of thing or?
No, just make a movement to the MCS.
But is PCS moving the whole time? The coordinate system is moving with the axis,
Yeah.
with the conveyor.
As long as the conveyor is running, it's moving the whole time.
Especially if you told it to go to 0, but now the 0 coordinate of the PCS
Yeah.
is moving the whole time.
Yeah.
It's
So
confusing to get your head around it.
yeah. So if your conveyor is actually constantly moving and you detect an object, you need to save the actual position of the conveyor. So that could be 6,500. So your initial object position is 6,500. And the conveyor is now running, and if you now move to PCS1, the conveyor is 6,600, but because the conveyor, because the piece was actually set to the 6,500, the axis group knows where it is, and it just goes to that position. So if the conveyor was already running for 6,500 and you would put the initial object position to 0, then the axis group thinks, but the actual position of the conveyor right now is 6,500, but it is linked to 0, so it must be somewhere over there. So the axis group is going to try to move 6,500.
Could you overcome that by making the conveyor a modular axis with the distance the same size as what your axis group could cover? So if your axis group could cover a distance of 200 rotations.
Yeah, but that's maybe, I don't know. But the easiest thing is if you detect an object, save the actual position where you detect the object, and then use that as the initial object position. Then it doesn't matter if the initial object position is 12,565.
You're right. Yeah. Because that the axis group will see that as 0.
Yeah.
So if you, as the tracking then runs on the absolute position,
Yeah.
you execute, your axis group will go to where it will track with it.
Yeah.
Because it would see its current position as 0.
Yes.
So when we execute the track conveyor, right, in that sense is here. Whatever the conveyor is, will be captured. It will be sent to the axis.
Mm-hmm.
That will move within
Yeah.
we execute the track conveyor. Right?
The track conveyor belt doesn't initiate a movement. It only virtually places the piece on the tracking of the conveyor belt. But there's no movement because my axis group is still waiting. But virtually my piece is now moving. Only if I start to move to the piece, my conveyor belt, my axis group is also moving.
Yeah, so one thing is like the sensor detected
Mm-hmm.
at this point is 6. So
Yeah.
the sensor must go and do and execute an empty track conveyor.
You can do that, yes.
And then that will capture the
Yeah.
absolutely. So from there, there's axis that needs to move. Once we execute the empty conveyor, will the axis move?
No.
We need to put in the PCS.
You need to execute a move linear absolute to the PCS1.
axis, one is changing, moving down the conveyor.
Yeah.
First, have to save the position.
You don't. The
Yeah.